Hello and welcome. Today we will look at a very special story, the story of Greek guest workers in Germany. It is a story that helps us understand the human experience behind the big word migration, the hopes, but also the hardships. Let's start with a question that today seems more relevant than ever. Yes, this question often leads to very heated debates, and these debates are usually fueled by a few very persistent myths. We hear these statements again and again, don't we? But to really understand what is behind them, we need to look back at one of the largest migration movements in Europe after the war. And this is where it becomes interesting. Let's see how this story actually began. Because, and this is important, it did not start with people arriving unexpectedly, but with an official invitation. And this is really the key point. This comparison shows clearly that migration was not a one-sided matter. It was a solution for two nations that both had to rebuild after the terrible destruction of the war. When we look at this timeline, one thing becomes clear: the agreement of 1960 did not appear out of nowhere. It was the result of 15 long years during which Europe had to reorganize itself politically and economically. But to truly understand why hundreds of thousands of people left their homes, we must look beyond economic numbers. This quote by Jacobus Campanels from 1965 describes it perfectly. The motivation to leave was much more than just the search for a job. It was about dignity, and about escaping a very painful past. Let's make this more concrete. 85 is just a number. But imagine a village in the Greek region of Epirus. In only 30 years, the population fell from more than 1,200 people to just 85. That was the harsh reality of migration. We must understand that this was not a comfortable choice. For many people, leaving their homeland was literally the only way to survive, and maybe, just maybe, to build a better future for their families. And although migration was a huge opportunity, the reality in Germany was far from a golden ticket. Even in Greece, people saw it in a very mixed way, as both a blessing and a curse. Just think about the word itself, guest worker. What does it actually mean? It already reveals the expectations of that time. You are guests here to work, temporary workers, but not future citizens. And yes, life as a guest was often difficult. The welcome was often cold, and everyday life was a constant struggle, marked by isolation and very hard conditions, far away from family and far away from home. And this is not an exaggeration. Listen to what the left-wing newspaper Avki wrote at that time. It was a shocking criticism that revealed the reality for many workers, a dramatic contrast to the promise of a better life. And now we come to the key question. Why is all of this important for us today? Because this story is not just history. It also holds a mirror up to our society today. If we compare the challenges of the past with those of today, we immediately see that the context has changed and the world looks different. But the basic struggles, against prejudice, for integration, and for simply finding a place that feels like home, are remarkably similar. When we understand all of this, it becomes clear that migration is not a modern problem. It has always been a fundamental part of Europe's history of rebuilding and renewal, and also part of Germany's success story. And this may be the most important lesson. Behind every statistic and every number there is a human being, a person driven by hope and responsibility, not by the desire to exploit a system. And this brings us to the final question this story asks us: is migration really a threat? Or is it a shared chapter of our history that we are still writing together? It is a question that invites us to choose empathy and understanding over fear. Today's topic was based on a work by Maria Adamopoulou, 2024. If you have questions or topic suggestions, feel free to contact me at YouTube at EmpowerMigra.com. EmpowerMigra, understanding begins with listening.